For years, Anna had been stuck in a painful loop. Every morning, she would stare at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, pinching the folds on her stomach, running her fingers over the soft curve of her chin. The cruel words her husband, Greg, often threw her way echoed in her mind. "Do you ever think about taking care of yourself?" He'd sneer while scrolling through his phone. Or worse, he'd mutter fat under his breath when he thought she wasn't paying attention. Anna wasn't blind to her own reflection. She knew she wasn't the woman Greg had married 10 years ago. Back then, she had been slim, energetic, and full of life. But life had its way of wearing her down. Stress at work, sleepless nights raising their daughter, and a creeping sense of loneliness had all taken their toll. Food became her solace, a way to soothe the pain Greg had inflicted with his words and indifference. But Greg's insults weren't the worst of it. It was his withdrawal that stung the most. He stopped inviting her to social gatherings with friends, started coming home later, and barely looked her in the eye anymore. It wasn't until she found a lipstick-stained coffee cup in his car that she pieced it all together. He was seeing someone else. Anna had confronted him that night, her voice shaking with anger and betrayal. "Who is she, Greg? Don't lie to me." His response was casual, almost indifferent. "It doesn't matter. I'm not leaving you or her. Just don't make this harder than it needs to be." The sheer audacity of his words left Anna reeling. Greg didn't even bother denying it. He acted as though she should simply accept the situation and carry on. And for months she did. She cried herself to sleep at night, stuffed the empty void inside her with food, and tried to convince herself she could endure it for the sake of their daughter. But every time Greg disappeared for a work trip or stayed late at the office, the walls of her resolve cracked a little more. One evening, Anna hit her breaking point. She had spent the day cleaning the house, preparing Greg's favorite meal, and trying her best to ignore the sinking feeling in her chest. But when he walked through the door, reeking of perfume that wasn't hers, something inside her snapped. "Do you even care about this family anymore?" she demanded, her voice trembling with both anger and heartbreak. Greg barely looked up from his phone. "What do you want from me, Anna? I'm here, aren't I? Physically, maybe. But your heart's somewhere else." He sighed, exasperated. "Look, we've been over this. I'm not leaving you, but I'm not going to stop seeing her either. Just let it go. Let it go?" Those 3 words churned in her stomach like acid. How dare he? How dare he treat her like a backup plan, a placeholder for his convenience? That night, Anna sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the photo of their wedding day on her nightstand. She barely recognized the woman in the picture, the radiant smile, the hopeful eyes. She was a ghost of her former self now, a hollowed-out version of the woman she used to be. And then a thought crept into her mind, quiet at first, but growing louder with each passing second. "I can't live like this anymore." The next morning, Anna made her decision. When Greg left for work, she packed his clothes into a suitcase and set it by the front door. When he came home that evening, she met him with a calm she didn't know she possessed. "We're done," she said simply. "Get out." Greg stared at her, stunned. For the first time in years, he seemed genuinely surprised. "You're not serious." "I am." "You've already made your choice, Greg. And it's not me." He didn't fight her, didn't beg or plead. He just grabbed his suitcase and left. And when the door clicked shut behind him, Anna collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done, but for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. There were moments of empowerment, where Anna felt like she was finally reclaiming her life. But there were also moments of crushing loneliness, where the silence of the house was deafening. She missed the man Greg used to be, the one who made her laugh, who held her close on cold nights, who promised her forever. But she knew that man was gone, replaced by someone she no longer recognized. To cope, Anna threw herself into self-care. Not the Instagram-worthy kind with bubble baths and face masks, but the messy, unglamorous work of rebuilding her self-worth. She started therapy, joined a local book club, and took long walks to clear her mind. She even started cooking again. Not the comfort food she used to drown her sorrows in, but healthy, nourishing meals that made her feel strong. And slowly she began to change. Her body grew lighter, her skin brighter. But it wasn't just the physical transformation that surprised her, it was the way she started to feel inside. For the first time in years, she felt like she was enough. 3 months after Greg left, Anna met Daniel. He was a single dad she met at her daughter's school during a parent-teacher conference. They bonded over their shared experiences of heartbreak. His wife had left him for her fitness trainer, and he was still picking up the pieces. Daniel was kind in a way Anna wasn't used to. He listened when she spoke, laughed at her jokes, and never made her feel like she had to prove her worth. They started meeting for coffee after school drop-offs, and those casual chats slowly turned into something more. Anna was hesitant at first. She worried she was moving too fast, that she wasn't ready to open her heart again. But Daniel was patient, never pushing her for more than she was willing to give. And as the weeks turned into months, Anna realized she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. One evening, as Anna and Daniel sat on her porch watching the sunset, he turned to her and said, "You've changed, you know." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? How so?" "You're glowing," he said simply. "You look free." Anna smiled, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. For so long, she had been weighed down by Greg's cruelty, by the expectations of others, by her own insecurities. But now, she was free, free to be herself, to love and be loved, to live without fear. She still thought about Greg sometimes, wondered if he ever regretted what he'd done. But those thoughts didn't consume her anymore. She had moved on, not just from him, but from the version of herself that had allowed him to treat her so poorly. As she leaned into Daniel's embrace, Anna realized she had finally found the one person who would never let her down, herself. And that, she knew, was the greatest love of all. Anna's life had become a steady rhythm of joy and calm. Her days were filled with the kind of peace she once thought was impossible, a loving partner in Daniel, a thriving relationship with her daughter, and the freedom to live life on her own terms. But every so often, shadows of her past would creep in, uninvited. One evening, as Anna was finishing up dinner preparations, her phone buzzed on the counter. She wiped her hands on a towel and glanced at the screen. The message was from Greg. "We need to talk." Anna's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't heard from Greg in months, not since she had filed for the official divorce papers. She stared at the message, debating whether to ignore it. After all, what could he possibly want now? But curiosity got the better of her. She typed back a simple response. "About what?" His reply came quickly. "Can I stop by? It's important." Anna sighed, hesitating. Part of her didn't want to see him, didn't want to open that door again. But another part of her, the part that still remembered the years they had shared, felt she owed him at least a moment of her time. "Fine," she typed back. "Come by at 8. When Greg arrived, he looked different. His once confident stride was slower, his shoulders hunched. There were bags under his eyes, and his usual smirk had been replaced with something almost somber. "Thanks for seeing me," he said, stepping into the house hesitantly. The warmth of the living room seemed to unnerve him, as though he didn't belong there anymore. "What do you want, Greg?" Anna asked, crossing her arms. He ran a hand through his hair, struggling to find the right words. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about everything. And I need to apologize. For everything. For the way I treated you. For not seeing what I had until it was gone." Anna blinked, stunned. Greg had never been one for apologies, let alone genuine ones. "Why now?" she asked cautiously. "What's changed?" "I hit rock bottom," he admitted. "That woman I left you for? She left me. Said I wasn't good enough for her. And it made me realize. I threw away the one person who always had my back." Anna stared at him, torn between pity and anger. The apology she had once yearned for now felt hollow. Too little, too late. "Greg," she said carefully, "I'm glad you're finally taking a hard look at yourself. But you need to understand something. I've moved on. I'm happy now. And I can't go back to the person I was when I was with you." He nodded slowly. a pained expression crossing his face. I get it. I needed to tell you I'm sorry. Anna didn't know what to say. So, she just nodded. I hope you figure things out, Greg. And with that, she gently closed the door behind him. The encounter with Greg lingered in Anna's mind for days. While she didn't regret her decision to end things with him, the sadness in his eyes was hard to shake. For years, she had loved him, even if he hadn't deserved it. And while she didn't know him anything, she couldn't help but hope he'd find a way to fix his broken life. Meanwhile, her relationship with Daniel continued to flourish. He was everything Greg wasn't: patient, kind, attentive. But most importantly, he treated Anna as an equal, not an accessory. With him, she felt truly seen. One weekend, Daniel invited Anna and her daughter, Lily, to join him and his son, Max, for a hike. It was the first time their children were spending significant time together, and Anna was nervous. Would they get along? Would Lily resent having another man in her mother's life? To her relief, the outing was a success. Max and Lily bonded over their shared love of Marvel movies, and Daniel's easygoing nature made everything feel effortless. Watching him help Lily climb over a fallen tree, Anna felt a swell of gratitude. For the first time in years, she could see a future that wasn't clouded by uncertainty or pain. Just as Anna was settling into her new life, an unexpected challenge arose. One evening, as she was tucking Lily into bed, her daughter blurted out a question that caught Anna off guard. Mom, do you think Dad's sad without us? Anna froze. She hadn't expected Greg to come up, not like this. Why do you ask, sweetheart? Lily shrugged, fiddling with the edge of her blanket. He called me today. He said he misses us. Anna's chest tightened. While she had never prevented Greg from maintaining a relationship with Lily, she hadn't expected him to reach out so soon or so directly. What else did he say? She asked gently. He asked if we could have dinner sometime. Like a family. Lily looked up at her with wide, hopeful eyes. Do you think we could? Anna's mind raced. She didn't want to confuse Lily by giving her false hope. But she also didn't want to cut Greg out of their lives entirely. I'll think about it, she said finally, kissing Lily's forehead. Get some sleep, okay? But as Anna left the room, she couldn't shake the feeling that Greg's reappearance was going to complicate everything. True to his word, Greg followed through on his promise to change. He began attending therapy, stopped drinking, and even found a steady job. Anna couldn't deny that he seemed like a better version of himself. But she also knew that change didn't erase the years of pain he had caused. One evening, Greg called her. Anna, can we talk? Just us. Anna hesitated, but agreed. They met at a local coffee shop, a neutral ground where emotions wouldn't run too high. I've been doing a lot of work on myself, Greg began. And I realize now how much I took you for granted. You didn't deserve that. Anna sipped her coffee, waiting for him to continue. I don't want to mess up your life, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But I'd like to be a bigger part of Lily's. And maybe, just maybe, we can try being friends. Anna studied him carefully. He seemed sincere, but she had learned the hard way that words were easy. Actions were what mattered. I think it's great that you're working on yourself, she said finally. And I'll never keep you from being part of Lily's life. But Greg, we can't go back. You need to accept that. He nodded, though the sadness in his eyes was unmistakable. I know. I just wanted you to hear it from me. With Greg's return came a flood of emotions Anna hadn't anticipated. Part of her wanted to forgive him, to let go of the anger and hurt that had lingered for so long. But another part of her, stronger, steadier, knew that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. One evening, as she and Daniel sat on the porch watching the stars, Anna opened up about her meeting with Greg. He wants to be friends, she said, leaning her head against Daniel's shoulder. And how do you feel about that? He asked gently. I don't know, she admitted. Part of me thinks it's a terrible idea, but another part of me feels like maybe it's time to let go of the past. Daniel nodded, his hand resting on hers. You don't owe him anything, Anna. But if forgiving him helps you move forward, then do it. Just make sure it's for you, not for him. Anna smiled, grateful for his unwavering support. She knew she still had a long way to go, but for the first time in years, the weight of her past didn't feel so heavy. As the weeks turned into months, Anna found a delicate balance between her old life and her new one. She allowed Greg to spend more time with Lily, but she kept firm boundaries in place. And with Daniel by her side, she finally felt free to live the life she had always deserved. In the end, Anna learned that closure wasn't about erasing the past, it was about finding peace within it. And for the first time, she felt truly at peace.